You know, I have thought maybe talk about it, yeah. I'm not sure what the details are. They talked to Kevin.
All right, let's call to order this regular meeting of the Sturgis City Council today, Monday, May 5th, 6:30 p.m. Please stand and recite the pledge with me. Tonight, I believe we have Brian, who's going to offer our prayer.
Yes. Pastor Brian Ross is here from the Calvary Baptist Church. Did I say it right that time? Baptist. And Brian, our condolences for all of your loss, and thank you for taking time to be with us under all those circumstances. God bless you.
Can I say, I know it's not approved yet because we're not to the praise part, but can I say a praise part since I'm up here? So Jody's his police officers and the EMT guys, when my wife passed away, they were just awesome, very professional. And so I just want to thank them. Did a great job. So thank you. So let's pray. Father, I thank you for bringing us together tonight. And Lord, Lord, we said the Pledge of Allegiance, and Lord, every time I get to the end of that, I always feel like I should say amen or something. But Lord, it says in there, indivisible. And so, Lord, I thank you for these council people and the ones that are getting ready to also take the oath of office. And I just pray that they would, just as they're doing now, Lord, it's just wonderful to see they're being indivisible. They're working together as a team. And so, Lord, I just pray you'd help them tonight as they work forward as a team, that you would just guide them and direct them in their thoughts and decisions. And we ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you, Brian. Takes us down to item 3, which is approval of our agenda. Is somebody willing to make a motion or has some motion that includes adjustments to our agenda?
I would motion to approve with several adjustments. For item 13.1, which is the oath of office, add the oath of office for Ward 1 for Alex as well, and Ward 2 for Tony, and yourself for mayor. And then add a 6.2 for an attorney update under department updates. And then move the entire item 6 to between items 14 and 15. And then remove 17.3 and 17.4.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we've got a first by Ruth and a second by Alex to approve the agenda with adjustments to 13.1, adding oath of office to all of the people that were in the election, adding an agenda item under department updates, and moving the entire department update to new business between 14 and 15 on our agenda. Is there any further discussion?
And removing 17.3 and 17.4.
Thank you for reminding that. That was a piece. We had 2 contracts on there that both indicated they wanted some more time with the city to talk about those, so 17.3 and 17.4 removed. With all those adjustments, is there any further discussion on this agenda? Hearing none, let's vote. Those in favor of the agenda as motioned indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. All right, we have an agenda. Item 4 is announcements and praise. Councilor Thompson, are you going to read tonight for those?
Thank you. Many things, and thank you for putting these things to us. Coming up this Saturday, May 10th, there will be a chili and salsa contest as part of the Senior Citizen Center here in town. And if you have questions on that, you should check with the senior citizens. Chili and salsa contest, green chili, red chili, and salsa, if you're interested. City of Sturgis Spring Cleanup is this week. Find out more on city website on the city's Facebook page or in this month's Sturgis newsletter. Silent auction is going on now at the Sturgis Public Library for the annual Green Thumb Gala. There's a reception from 3 until 4:30 Friday. Come see if you're a winner and celebrate with fellow plant lovers. This week's Music Speaks at 5:30 on Thursday, that's p.m. You don't have to get up real early for that one. That's May 8th, it's Born to Run at 50. Bruce Springsteen called his album Born to Run a dividing line between adolescent ideas and the more mature tone of his later work. Released in August of '75, it was the Last Chance album that propelled Springsteen into rock stardom. This will be the last presentation at the library until September. And don't forget Mother's Day is Sunday, May 11th, and Sturgis Brown High School graduation is 2 o'clock Sunday, May 18th. Those are the announcements that I have.
Outstanding. I guess I'd have one I'd like to add, Jim, and that it's cleanup week. And I was talking with our Public Works Director. Just want to remind everybody to get their items out on their trash day, and that would mean first thing. I mean, you might be used to having your trash picked up at late in the day, but help our Public Works guys out and have your items outside and ready to go the whole day. 7 a.m.? Yeah, by 7 a.m. That way your neighbors have a chance to recycle some of those items, so.
Kevin, I got one more too I'd like to add. Our fly-in, I was out at the Sturgis Airport this last Saturday. They had 22 airplanes from all across the region fly in for that. And it was so busy, they actually had to run back to town to get more food for their breakfast that they were serving people. So I just wanted to pass that on because it's a great event and well put on by the people that out there at the airport. So
Thank
there was 22.
22 aircraft that
Yep.
were not normally based in
Yeah.
our.
And
That's
there was
nice.
probably 75 to 100 people in and out through the morning, so.
Outstanding. Does anyone else on council have a announcement or praise they would like to share? How about members of the public? All right, continuing on, item 5 is on agenda matters that may come before council. Does anyone on council have a non-agenda item that they would like to bring up tonight? How about members of the audience? The chief stood up, but I.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I want to take this opportunity to introduce you to our newly hired ambulance director. As of just this evening, he's getting going. He was tied up this afternoon with jury duty, so he's just getting here, getting the ball rolling. But this here's Aiden Schillig, and I'll turn it over to him, let him introduce himself, and maybe talk just a couple minutes briefly about himself.
I'll do anything to get out of jury duty. I have been a flight paramedic for 29 years. I've worked in almost every state in the Midwest. I started out in a very small town in Kansas. Took my EMT class in the basement of a church. 9 people on the fire department. We didn't have any EMTs to come to our stuff, so we had to call the county over. And so I started out as a volunteer, made my way up. I've worked with Life Flight for about 10 years here in Rapid City. But I took some time away from that to work for a great company that put EMS nurses, paramedics, EMTs on large construction sites, tunnels, mines, bridges, pipelines, offshore rigs. So I've ran ambulance services in the U.S. and Canada, and we're going to right this ship and get it going. I expect big changes very, very soon. And my door's always open, so if you have questions, give me a call or come down to the ambulance.
Outstanding. Well,
Could you spell your name for us?
Sure, it's Aiden, A-D-E-N, Schillig, S-C-H-I-L-L-I-G. No N. No N. Thanks. It's nice to meet y'all.
thank you, Aiden. All right, is there anyone else that has a non-agenda item that, Bonnie, would you?
First, there's the ceremonial lowering of the chair. It's so that you have a head, because otherwise, all I see is the top of your hair. Well, I want to add a praise because Donna didn't say anything, but we talked this morning, and she said, well, they picked up my junk that I was getting rid of, but they didn't get my branches. And I said, well, don't sweat it. If they don't get the branches, I'll come get the branches. We'll run them to the dump. Then she called me later and said, never mind, they got my branches. So the fact that, you know, you're running crews that do different things. Yeah, exactly. And so I said, well, I think that's what it is, but if it isn't, we can take care of it. So thank you for getting Donna's branches. Non-agenda item. We saw the article in the paper about the TT race. And, you know, in remembering that we weren't going to have it, then we were going to have it, and we were going to have it at no expense to us. And then we had it, and we were promised a review afterwards of how it went, what happened, expense accounting and stuff. And now we have the question out there about us owing them money. That's a big question mark in the air and on the street, and it's not coming up in an agenda yet. I recognize that it is no doubt a contract issue and a legal issue that winds up in executive session, but we need some sense of what's going on and how we got here.
Bonnie, I appreciate that statement, and the item that was added, 6.2 that got moved to after 14 under department updates. Eric Davis, our legal representative, is going to provide some information on that tonight, so.
6.2?
Well, we started at 6.2 and then we moved the whole category 6, department updates, to later in the agenda,
Okay.
after the new council is seated and,
Okay. Thank you.
Does that make sense?
Well, it does now. It didn't when it happened.
Right.
Obviously, or I would have picked it up, because I'm only seeing the 6.1, so I missed the 6.2. I saw the moving to 6, but I didn't see a 6.2, because I was in here on a wing and a prayer tonight, so thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have a non-agenda item that they want to address with the council tonight? All right. Hearing none. And again, the entire category, department updates, 6 has been moved to later in the agenda. So continuing on to item 7, that's our consent agenda. Consider the consent agenda as a whole, but there's only one item on the consent agenda, so I guess we won't be removing anything to consider it separately tonight. What we have is the minutes from the April 21st meeting on the consent agenda. Is there anyone willing to motion approval of the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
First by Alex, a second by Nick to approve the consent agenda as presented. Those in favor of the motion indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. That item was unanimous. Public hearings, 8.1 is consideration to approve a special event license to the Loud American Roadhouse for live music, food, and shopping during the 2025 Sturgis Motorcycle Rally from 7:30, July 30th until August 10th. Somebody gonna provide more than the description I gave?
No, we don't. And I do have everything that I need.
Okay. And this, the location on this is, just so we say it into the, I don't have a copy of it, so I,
This is consideration to a grant for a special event license for Loud American Roadhouse for the live music and food and shopping during the 2025 Sturgis Motorcycle Rally.
Yeah, but where's the special event location?
This is, on the packet there, it shows that building that, I don't know, does Mike Bashan still own that building?
So it's a separate parcel. What is it?
1337 Main Street?
It's the Puffy's building right now. Be retasked as so they'll close that business for the week.
It's the parking
It's
lot
the
right in front
parking
of that
lot.
building.
Okay. And we can't have those two types of operations in the same building, so it makes sense it's the parking lot. Anybody provide any more information or have any questions, comments?
Looks good.
Hearing no questions or comments, is somebody willing to motion this 8.1?
I'd make the motion.
I'll second it.
First by Nick, a second by Mark to approve special event license to the Loud American Roadhouse for music and shopping during the 2025 Sturgis Motorcycle Rally on a separate parcel adjacent to their current building. Those in favor of that motion indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. That motion carried unanimously. Item 8.2 is another special event license, this time for the Oasis Bar and Lounge for the Chambers Art Festival and Battle of the Bands, June 7th, and Music on Main, June 11th, July 9th, and August 13th. That would be at Rally Point for everyone, for all of those.
Yes.
Does anybody have any questions on those 4 dates for special event license for Oasis Bar?
I just have a comment. I want to tell staff and the requester, very good on putting them all in one so we don't have to pick through them all through the summertime. And with that, I would motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you, Tony. First by Tony, a second by Jim to approve this special event license. All those in favor indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Those approved, no. Or those opposed, no. Nobody said no, even though they approved. Item 9 is approval of claims. I think we had, Ann, one redundancy on that.
Yes, we have one claim that needs to be removed under fleet management, A&B Welding. It was
It's on page 2, bottom of page 2.
The
for
157.
$157.80. One was put in on the delivery ticket and the other one off the invoice, is what happened. And Cassell would have caught that if it had the same number, but it was a different invoice number that was used for it. So that's why it was in there double.
Gotcha. And I'm sure we've worked towards trying to make sure everyone understands we put invoices in rather than pick tickets.
Right.
So what's that bring the claim amount to with that adjustment so we can,
That brings it to $215,545.42.
okay, so with that adjustment, is there any other questions or concerns from council? How about members of the public? Anybody got any questions or comments on claims? Hearing none, would there be a motion to approve the claims with the adjustment reducing the total amount by $157.80 because of the redundancy?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We got a first by Tony, a second by Mark to approve the claims for a total of $215,545.42. All those in favor of the motion indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. That brings us to the end of our council meeting under our current form. So I would move that we adjourn sine die, which means all business is done for the current council. And that we have a brief recess and call to order our 2025-26 Sturgis City Council session and begin with the oath of office.
Motion to approve?
Second.
5 minutes, yeah. We got a first by Alex, a second by adjourn, sine die. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? We have unanimously adjourned our 2024-2025 Sturgis City Council.
Did it. I just gotta finish the rest of 2025.
That's water.
I believe that Deb has brought more cookies, right? Thank you. For the public as well?
first meeting of the 2025 Sturgis City Council. Again, today, May 5th, 2025. And the first item on this new agenda, this new council's agenda, is oath of office. And we have 5 individuals that will be receiving the oath tonight. And our attorney, Eric Davis, will be administering that oath. Eric, do you have any comments, or do you want to take over?
Yeah, I will take over. Thank you, Mayor. Just really briefly, I was asked to administer the oaths today. It's not in my capacity as city attorney. It's in my capacity as a notary public, who is a person who's authorized to administer oaths under South Dakota law. I did just a little bit of research to see what kind of forms of oaths have been used in the past, and there are at least a couple, and the one that I've chosen for tonight is different than the one that was chosen recently, but the oath of office for all elected and appointed officials under South Dakota law is specified by the South Dakota Constitution, and so that's the form that I've elected to use. And I figured if I was in your position and had won an election and someone was asking me to swear the oath, I would choose the one from the South Dakota Constitution and not one that I thought I could do a better job on, because I don't believe I can. So that's the oath that you're going to receive tonight, and I think just the way we'll do it is maybe we'll start with the 4 council members, and I was asked by Deb if they could all come up, stand in front of the dais, and we'll administer the oath. And then just so everyone knows what's going to happen, it is a little shorter than probably your last oath. I will read a sentence and ask you to repeat it back to me. It'll be easy, and I'll try to go slow. Let me know if you have any questions. Step out about 2 feet, please. There we go. Thank you. And then when we're finished, just before you sit down, I have a piece of paper for you to sign. I'll notarize it. We'll hand that to the finance officer, and then we'll be good to go. So what I'll ask you to do is please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of South Dakota, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of council member for the city of Sturgis, Meade County, to the best of my ability. Congratulations. And we'll just ask you to do these 2 things inside with names. Doesn't matter which one. Just right here. Yeah, top one. Yeah, print and sign.
Ready, right here?
Oh, sure. Will you please raise your right hand and repeat after me? I do solemnly swear or affirm
I do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of South Dakota,
and the Constitution of the State of South Dakota.
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of mayor
I will faithfully discharge the duties of mayor
for the city of Sturgis, Meade County,
for the city of Sturgis, Meade County,
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
You're fine.
Continuing on our agenda. Item 14 is election of council leadership. Eric, you discussed having a briefing on how you see this process working. Could you please share that with us?
Yeah, in the past, what the city's done for council leadership elections is essentially had a secret balloting. That is described in Robert's Rules of Order for all organizations as just a basic rule of order that nominations would be opened up, one or more names would be nominated, and then there would be some sort of election, usually by secret ballot. That's one of the ways it's at least been done in the past. My concern with that in evaluating the process is that Robert's Rules of Order is not law. It's not specific to governments. And so that's a method that may work well for something like the Rotary, but it doesn't work when we have certain public records requirements that we need to be able to determine how the elected officials voted on any particular action. And so my suggestion back when we did it before is that someone would just a council member would nominate someone to serve in the particular office, be it either president or vice president. That motion would be seconded, and then there would be a vote. And the question just was raised of what if there were more than one nomination? And I think my recommendation on this, just with our public meeting requirements, is that, let's say just for example, someone wanted to move that a particular member be elected as council president. That motion was seconded and there was discussion. What another council say, I know that council member X was nominated and is very qualified, but under the circumstances, I feel that there might be another person, and so it's my request that you would vote down the motion and then offer a substitute motion indicating who you would intend to nominate. And so essentially, we need a motion and a second, and then a majority vote for any of these appointments to take place. So it's not exactly clear. The law is not clear on how to do this, but the council does have the ability to judge and set rules for how it wants to govern its proceedings. That's certainly going to be a recommendation that I make to you as we go through the recodification process. But for now, we're just trying to do things in the most orderly manner in the way that satisfies South Dakota laws on being able to understand how you all voted. So that's my recommendation, is that these positions are filled by a motion and a second, and that if there's any other substitute motions, any other nominations, that be made known during the discussion process. That will let people know that if they decide to vote against the motion for whomever it was to nominate that person for president, that person would be just following up with a substitute motion. Does that make sense? I'm happy to answer any questions.
Actually, for clarity, the normal process would be if there's a motion and a second, and then there's a substitute motion that is seconded, you don't vote on the first motion first. You vote on the substitute motion first.
You can't ever have two questions pending before the body at the same time. And so my understanding is that a substitute motion wouldn't be in order until the original motion is disposed of. And so what I'm suggesting is, let's say someone says, I move that Councilmember X be elected president, and then that is seconded. Someone else might come in and say, I understand that the motion is to elect Councilmember X. I intend to vote no, and I urge you to also vote no, because if that fails, I intend then to offer a substitute motion to elect Councilmember Y as council president. So we would need to dispose of the first motion first, and that is what, in my review of a cursory re-review of Robert's Rules this afternoon, indicated to me would be the appropriate process, considering the issue that we have to deal with of public action.
Okay, so each action is going to be judged separately at that point.
Yes, and we'll just continue the process until there's a majority vote.
Does council agree with that process? Anybody have any comments on it? Okay. To start the process then, the first item is election of the Sturgis City Council President for the next calendar year, or the next year. That's been our custom and culture, I guess. I I would imagine we're going to stick with that one calendar year on this. We don't have an election for 2 years, but this is a one-year seat. Is there anyone willing to make a motion for a city council president?
Mr. Mayor, I would like to nominate as the president of the city council, the honorable councilperson, Tony Dargetts.
I'll second.
Very good. We've got a motion and a second for Tony Dargetts. Is there any further discussion on this? Hearing none, we're going to roll call vote this so that we go through this process, right? Do you agree with that, Eric?
I'm not sure that you have to. If there's only one nomination, you're certainly welcome to.
Well, it could still fail, and then like a majority vote could still fail, and then there'd have to be another nomination, correct?
Absolutely possible.
Not likely in this, but.
All right, so not making Tony's,
And person can abstain or vote or no vote on this.
It's your choice. There is no legal requirement. I
Okay.
do not believe it's a conflict of interest to vote for oneself for a council leadership position.
I just, yeah, okay.
all right, I'm going to start over on this side of the room. Nick?
Yes.
Jim?
Absolutely.
Terry?
Yes.
Alex?
Yes.
Ruth?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Jesse?
Yes.
And Tony?
I'll abstain.
Should have started with him. Congratulations, Tony.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. I'm glad you guys have trust and faith in that I'll do a good job. So, and like I said, any comments, questions, whatever, in the next year, let me know. And that's not just for council members, staff, public, too. So, thank you.
All right, to complete the council leadership election, we have to select a council vice president using the same process. So I'll go ahead and open the floor to nominations for council vice president.
I'd like to nominate Alex as council vice president.
I would second that.
Okay, Ruth nominates Alex. Jim seconds that nomination. Is there any further discussion on that motion? Hearing none, I will actually start over with Tony this time. Tony, how do you vote on this motion?
Yes.
Jesse? Terry?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
And Nick?
Yes.
All right.
Thank you, everybody.
Congratulations.
All right. We adjusted our agenda to include department updates as next. The first department of the two department updates is the Finance Office 2025 first quarter sales tax.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Total general sales tax for the 2025 first quarter is $458,558.50, which is up $35,684.24 over 2024. The total special sales tax is $65,109.97, which is down $2,597.95 compared to '24. The total capital improvement will mirror the general sales tax because that second rate, or that 2 cents that we collect, gets split 50-50 between capital improvement and general fund.
Outstanding. Anything more to add?
I do have a March to March for each year. The sales in the month of March for general were 17.9% lower than the March of 2024. Sales, and then for the special sales tax for the month of March, which is the tourism sales tax, is they were 14.5% lower than March of 2024. Did you want to add anything to that?
Sure. We also did a analysis for the first quarter, January through March. And if you look at the sales tax, generally 2025 is looking pretty good. Caution because of March. That's such a nosedive from what we had anticipated, what we'd been doing from January, February. But overall, right now for the first quarter, we're sitting pretty good compared to our historical numbers. And if you look at the triple B, you can see that one's gone down in 2025 for the whole quarter. You can see back in 2023, both monthly comparison of March, and then also looking at the first quarter, the first 3 months. 23 was kind of the banner year, and we've been slowly kind of going down from there. So, if you look at it from the quarter, I think you can take an optimistic view of where sales tax is and where we're going for the year. But, March, with everything that's been going on nationally and whatnot, so things maybe have contracted in March. I guess the next part of us for the next couple months to see, does that continue? Or does it start to bounce back up where we've been historically been for the last couple of years? This is all based on, with the budget, we assumed that in terms of tax revenue, we used 2023 as that assumption in terms of what we would get. So we're going to always want to look at ourselves as we go throughout the year against 2023 to see if we're getting the same kind of revenue what we anticipated.
And that is a big part of our funding source for the community. So sales tax is an important piece of our package. Anybody in council have any questions?
Just, is there any more direct indication of why March was down so much in itself?
No, I guess it'd be the short answer. I think all of us, as we continue to see what's been going on with potential tariffs, we know that Canada, if you look at some of the articles, a lot of them people have not been traveling down south as much. And so when you look at it from a tourism perspective, is that going to continue to get lower, particularly historically what we've been over the last couple of years? Part of it is, people have been spending some money on terms of buying some of the foreign stuff, just anticipating tariffs. And so I think right now it's kind of too soon to tell. But, I do think March seems consistent with how people have been drawing back on their spending until things start to get a little bit more settled and have a better understanding of where we sit and where they sit financially against, rising prices and those type of things. So with March being such a significant reduction, I would think you'd see that reduction continue for at least for a month or two until things start to stabilize and people start to have some understanding of where the market is in terms of what the impacts of perceived tariffs are going to be on them as a family, tourism, those type of things. So, it looks like, from a sale perspective, the wind's against us a little bit, particularly as we go into the tourist season. And if you're not getting as many people, international or Canada folks flying into South Dakota to experience, our great state, that could have an impact. Now, we're still probably going to gain a lot of people from the region. If you look at the rally, most of our attendees are coming from right around our area, Sioux Falls, Wyoming, Colorado, a lot of those things. So, with that, maybe that will have an uptick on more of a regional tourism in terms of people coming to the Black Hills. But it would be interesting to see over the next couple months how that trend works. Again, we're going to be looking again at how we did in 2023 so we can have a better anticipation what we think our revenue is going to be for this particular year.
Anyone else have any questions? Certainly something that we want to keep an eye on. March was low. Maybe it was because it didn't snow in March.
Yeah, not enough snowmobiles coming out this way, heading up.
The next item on the agenda is an update from Bonnie? Sorry.
I just wanted to, you mentioned the special sales tax. That came up on the list there. The capital improvement, special sales tax, and general. Would you just clarify for the general public what that special sales tax is?
So that's our triple B tax. That's beds, booze. I don't think, what's that?
Alcohol, hotels, restaurants, that type of stuff.
Well, and you mentioned that, the triple B, and you mentioned the special tax, and not everybody remembers that sometimes. one
Right.
end to the next, so I just
So
wanted to
there's an additional sales tax applied to purchases of alcohol, food, and hotel rooms. And that's primarily tied to that tourism aspect, but not in all cases, for sure. But it's a separate collection that we make above the general sales tax. And the general sales tax is split two ways, part to our general fund and part to our capital improvement fund.
So okay, so the general, there's the general listed, and then there's the capital improvement listed. So does that mean our actual tax was actually those two combined as a total?
Correct.
Yeah, because if you look at sales taxes, 6.5%. 4.5% goes to the state, 2% comes to the municipality. That 2%, 1% of that goes to the capital improvements, and then 1% goes to 1% goes to general account, and then 1% goes to capital improvements. But that's only 9/10 of 1% that goes to capital improvements, 1/10 equipment replacement. And then when you're looking at the BB, if you're doing the hotel, the beer, those type of things, you're not paying 6.5%, you're paying 7.5%. And that additional 1% is the one that's going to the triple B. So you got 1% for the general fund, and then you got 1% going mostly to the capital improvements and a little bit of going to equipment replacement.
Thank you.
Does that answer your questions?
You did.
Any further
I think I know, but then I'm not sure I remember it right, so thank you.
any further questions on the sales tax report from the finance office? Okay, continuing on, Eric Davis going to provide some legal updates for us.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, council. As you know, after the change in form of government, this council elected to try a new model for legal services of contracting with attorneys in private practice as opposed to outsource all legal services as opposed to hiring and employing one or more attorneys. That was a major policy shift. It's a step away from what the city's been historically doing, at least for the past few decades. And I've been serving in the capacity now as the city's legal advisor for about 4 months. And with that time and a little experience under my belt, this moment when we finish the election and we have our executive and legislative leadership for at least the next 2 years seemed like an opportunity to give you and the public kind of an update of what I've been up to, some of the things that I'm seeing on the horizon as far as new coming projects and some of the policy decisions that are guiding decisions out of this office. So just a few things I want to talk about is just to touch briefly on kind of my onboarding process and my initial assessment of where I think the city is and where we might be going. I do want to give you then a report on just a couple of pending matters that we've discussed in executive session and that I was asked to give you a little bit more information on in this public setting. And then, like I said, just talk a little bit about the overarching priorities, some of the major policy changes that we're starting to see come up, and upcoming matters, what's going to be coming up in the future. So first, as to just the onboarding process, I didn't really know what I was going to be getting into when I signed up for this, and when you all approved my contract, we knew that there was a need for legal services, and I have a history with some of you, but we had the new form of government, new mayor, new city administrator, a largely new city council, a lot of vacancies in key staff positions. You know, I don't have, my only history with the city of Sturgis is as a citizen and a voter and a resident, and certainly I've followed a lot of the city's business, but only, you know, probably to the depth, well, I was gonna say only to the depth of Bonnie, but that would just give me way too much credit. certainly her knowledge is far deeper than mine, but that's something that, of course, I've been trying to get up to speed on. You can't be able to make really sound legal recommendations without having at least some understanding of how and why things have been done in the past. Of course, with the new mayor and with Aaron Jordan coming on as city administrator, a huge amount of my time has been spent with Kevin and Aaron as the executive team. They're the ones who are really doing most of the heavy lifting as it concerns just keeping the walls of city government propped up, keeping the essential services being delivered to the city residents, and then of course just triaging day-to-day administrative and executive issues that come up. I do just want to say, I don't work for Aaron and Kevin. My contract is with you all. I'm not your employed attorney, so Aaron is not my supervisor. I don't take directions from them. They can't fire me. Of course, we've developed a really good working relationship, but I do want to make that clear. I'm not your employee. I'm an independent contractor. I've been sending you itemized bills every month, which you've been paying, and I really appreciate that. I do want to talk a little bit about what those bills look like and how it compares to the past, but I didn't really know Aaron very well. I knew him mostly by reputation, but the mayor's decision to hire him, I'm not going to lie, it was a huge reason that I decided to come on board based on Aaron's experience, his reputation, his leadership qualities. He seemed like the right person for the job, and that's certainly been my assessment as I've been here these past 4 months and working with him. I just don't know that you could have a better person in that position for the job that needs to be done right now. And I think the mayor deserves a lot of credit for hiring him, and I think Aaron deserves a lot of credit for the work that he's doing. And I know you all definitely see it more than the public, but even just on the day-to-day things, the executive side of the city of Sturgis is in good hands, and I feel proud and happy to be part of the team. I've also had the opportunity to spend some time with city staff members that I haven't really interacted with very much in the past, and I have to tell you, I'm incredibly impressed. I haven't dealt with all of them by any means, but certain upper-level key staff members I've interacted with, and we have a real solid staff, and Aaron's doing an incredible job of building and keeping morale, filling key vacancies, and it's just been a real pleasure to watch and be a part of. And I'm excited about the future of Sturgis and its government. I think it's off on a good foot, off on the right track, and really excited with kind of getting some of the election issues and the vacancies filled so that we have a solid city council, full city council moving forward to deal with some of the business that we have to do. I did look up at some of my bills. I've billed you about 100 hours since January. That breaks down to about 25 hours a month and roughly 6 or 8 hours a week. So really, I'm putting in like maybe a day's work out of the week, handling all the legal services. If you compare that to where you've been in the past, where that's been closer to 80 hours a week with 2 full-time attorneys, it's quite a bit different. And so we're managing that in different ways. I think there are one of my beliefs, and I think one of the directives that I've received from you is to let the elected officials and the staff members do their job and to provide legal advice and services where it's appropriate, but not to be another step in the decision-making process. That's not how I view my role. And so if there's no reason for me to be in a meeting, if there's not a reason for me to know about something, there's just no point in me being there and racking up a bill that you have to pay. So I've been working really closely with Aaron and with Kevin on trying to keep my scope here, my role here limited, if for no other reason than just financial considerations. And I think both Aaron and Kevin have a really good sense of, and staff members too, as I've been working with them, of what needs to come up for the city attorney to review comments, developing those relationships. And really my focus is on helping staff members do their job better and understand the laws that their departments and their positions operate under. It's kind of a teach a person to fish kind of mentality. Is we all, this entire government operates pursuant to South Dakota law, and it's important for department heads to understand the laws that govern their department and their actions. And so that's been a huge part of my role, and not just to be your legal director, but to be your legal advisor. Reports on just some open matters. I think the big one that everyone's thinking about is the city's relationship with AFT. One of the first things I was tasked by Aaron and Kevin to do when I came on board back in January was to help understand the city's relationship with AFT. You know, the details of the Sturgis TT, the downtown street race, were all negotiated primarily by elected and appointed officials who are no longer in office. So we don't have a lot of the history on what some of those negotiations were, what some of those discussions were. What we have access to is the forward-facing city council meetings, some public presentations, and most importantly, the co-host agreement that was approved by the council in May. That was the agreement that replaced the original host agreement after that was rejected by the voters in a referendum after that was signed in February. So of course, when you're talking about a contract with anyone, the first place that you want to go is to the contract. That's certainly one of the issues, is trying to understand what exactly the terms of that contract were, what the rights and responsibilities of both parties are, and ultimately who is paying for the race. The other related issue, the secondary issue to that, is getting the final financial reconciliation from the 2024 race. AFT has provided the city with information, but as we've released in the public, there's some questions about not just the amounts of the line items, but the city's ability to pay for some of those line items. And so we want to engage AFT in that process. AFT was responsible, my understanding, for writing all of the checks, for securing all those relationships, for bringing the race up out of the ground and making it happen as a successful event, which my understanding is that it was. But the city didn't have, I don't believe, any involvement in some of those decisions. And so, you know, consistent with the mayor's statements to the Black Hills Pioneer, we're looking for more information, still working on that reconciliation process with AFT. And I've been, you know, assisting the mayor in communicating with AFT since January. I've participated in numerous conversations with some of their key leadership. They were out here several weeks ago. We met for 4 or 5 hours discussing these things, trying to make progress, trying to close this book, and understand where we are so that we can move forward with the 2025 race. One of the issues that was brought up by AFT was the possibility of amending the contract and changing the race. And I don't want to put words in AFT's mouth, but I think my takeaway from that meeting is that they are thinking something about having the event up at the historic half-mile track at the fairgrounds. They feel that that would be a more suitable location than downtown Sturgis and a way to recoup, to earn more money. And so that's basically the extent of the details we have from that, and we've been pressing them for more information. That we've got a race scheduled to come up in the next few months, and if there is a proposal to change it, that really brings up, I think, in my view, 2 separate policy considerations. Is racing going to come back to the fairgrounds or isn't it? That's one initial question for the council to decide. And second would be, if we have a proposal from AFT, and again, I don't know if we do, there's nothing official yet, then the devil's in the details on that. And is that, if racing is coming back to the fairgrounds, is that what it's going to look like? So that's kind of where we've been in this holding pattern of trying to figure things out with the race. It is an all-hands-on-deck situation, but we feel a little bit limited with the information that we have and not having a bunch of details on what the new proposal is going to be, if there even is a new proposal. So that is ongoing, and you know what the information that we have, you know, my directions from both Kevin and Aaron is that we're really just kind of taking a palms face up approach with the city's relationship with AFT. We're trying to reconcile our different interpretations of the contract and whose responsibilities are what. We gave a lot of information to the Black Hills Pioneer when they asked us for comment, and that's why we're here visiting with you and trying to give you an update too. So there really isn't anything for the council to consider at this time. The executive side of things, the mayor and the city administrator, I'm certainly helping them interface with AFT to try to get answers to some of these questions, to see if there is a new proposal, what the details of that proposal might look like, so that we can work that up on the executive side, on a staff side, and get a report and potentially a recommendation in front of you for action, because that's who's going to be making the decision. And I'm sorry we don't have all that information yet, but we are working on that. And I think the intention is to reach out to the principals at AFT probably yet this week and say, if we're going to potentially do something, we're going to need to know what the details of that are sooner than later, just for practical logistical reasons. And if and when those are received, that's going to be on the council's agenda. So that's all I have to say on that. Further questions, further discussion, that may be something that's appropriate for executive session, but I just don't have much more information at this point. But we're working on that, and we'll have a decision ready for you all just as soon as we can. Anything that anyone wants to try to ask that I'll try to answer other than that, on that specific issue? All right, I'm going to move on then. We can always come back to it. But the second issue that I wanted to give you an update on is something that we've discussed here before, the situation with Kenny Price and the property that he owns, what I refer to as the Sampson Building. The city's had, again, there's a huge part of my role of city attorney is understanding what operations are currently and what they've been in the past, to just get a lay of the land of how the city of Sturgis operates in general and how it operates the Sturgis Motorcycle Rally in specific. That's not a lot of I didn't have access to that information before I took this position. And so there's a lot of fact finding that's still going on. I've been working with Aaron on that. I've been working with Lance on that. But the city does have a past practice of leasing parcels of real property from owners and then subleasing it to sponsors. This was one such arrangement where the city was leasing this building from Mr. Price and from companies that he owns that own that, and then subleasing it out to rally sponsors. Mr. Price canceled that lease. I already gave you that update when it happened. That's something that we didn't have any control over. That's what he did. That created some issues for us on just dealing with the relationships that we have with our sublessees and understanding the interplay between all of those contracts. I asked the city to engage another law firm, Nooney Soleil out of Rapid City, to assist with that if we end up in litigation. I've been in communication with Mr. Nooney. We're developing a plan to bring that forward in the way that is the most efficient and the most cost-effective to get, at least if nothing more, the city's recent $180,000 lease payment back on that building. And then we're also coordinating with the sublessees, trying to understand what their intentions are and seeing if we can make accommodations for them. So those are things that are happening on a staff level at this point. When there's time, when that is ready for any action from you, I'll let you know. But that's just something that I also have in progress, and this is going to be an opportunity to reevaluate that past practice, see if the council wants to continue to engage in that in the future. Those are the only two pending matters that I wanted to give you an update on here that I thought were appropriate for open session. Moving on just a little bit to some of the overarching priorities of what I have for this office as I've been here for the last 4 months and I'm getting up to speed. I already mentioned that I want to be your legal advisor and not your legal director. I'm trying to help staff understand their roles, the interplay of their positions and their duties with the law. Again, trying to understand past operations so that I can help you, advise you on future operations. Triaging a lot of emergent issues with Aaron as we both kind of get up to speed on where we've been and where we're going and some of the issues that are arising. My direction from both Aaron and Kevin and from all of you is that we're prioritizing transparency, which is part of the reason I'm here giving you this update in open session and not in executive session. And I'll talk a little bit more about some of the other changes that you're going to see in line with that. I told you this when you were talking about hiring me, an assessment of mine as a citizen and something that I wanted to bring to this role as city attorney is helping to redefine the line between the division of powers that's built into our government, especially in the aldermanic form of government without a city manager. And I've been working really diligently to try to help Aaron and Kevin understand what are executive functions and what are legislative functions for the city council. And I'll also be working with you on that to just understand that we have that separation of powers, that the city isn't run by one giant committee. There's an executive function and there's a legislative function. I think bringing that back and clearly delineating it is that is going to really serve us moving forward in the future. So that's a big priority of mine. And then big things on the horizon, we're in addition to just triaging the emergent issues that come up, we're planning to tackle the recodification and the comprehensive plan update. I talked to you that my intention was not to hop in the driver's seat of the government that we've been operating under for the past decade and continue moving that forward, that there were going to be a lot of government changes that I was going to recommend to you to make. We're working up through some of those up through the staff process. The heavy lifting on that will probably happen during the comprehensive plan update and the recodification, where there is my understanding from Aaron and Kevin that there's going to be significant public involvement in that. So we're working that up. Some of the major policy changes that I think you're going to start to see is we are evaluating the city's past stance on the confidentiality of rally documents. There's a lot of different rally documents that have been viewed to be confidential for different reasons. We are taking those up on a case-by-case basis and trying to evaluate the reasons for that, what's sound and what's not sound. You will see the publishing agreement that's on the agenda at this meeting with the Sturgis Motorcycle Museum. That's historically a contract that has not appeared in the packet through the decisions of both Kevin and Aaron, and with my support, that was made public so that you all and the council and the citizens have an opportunity to review that. So again, there isn't any kind of blanket policy on that. We're reviewing that on a case-by-case basis. I certainly believe that there are confidential things that the city might have in some of its agreements, and I want those to be brought to my attention. I want to fully understand them so I can advise you on those so that we can do any potential redactions that may need to be done, but that's something that we're also working on. I did want to give you also just the transparency of the non-secret ballot for council leadership elections. That's a policy change that's happened. I do want to bring your attention to something that probably will be news in the next week or so. The city is going to receive, I'm almost certain at this point, a reprimand from the Open Meetings Commission of the state of South Dakota for some actions that were taken in 2003 and 2004. My understanding is that the Open Meetings Commission had a meeting just a few days ago. They don't have their minutes out yet, but I do expect that they're going to conclude that the Sturgis City Council violated SDCL 1-25-2 during its February 16th, 2023 special meeting by engaging in a discussion in executive session that went outside the purposes cited in the city council's closure motion. And I think there's also going to be a finding of a violation that we violated SDCL 1-25-2 at the May 6th, 2024 meeting by entering executive session without stating a purpose in the closure motion. It's likely that we'll get a reprimand for that. That's just a public notice that we didn't follow with the spirit and intent of the open meetings laws back a year and 2 years ago when those were done. So we've taken the opportunity again. Our approach on this is palms face up. Not a lot of us were here when that happened. Certainly mistakes happen on occasion, but we are looking at the process for going into executive session, what is discussed there, the reasons cited in the closure motion. So I'll be working with the mayor and with you all, probably developing a memo on how we want to go into executive session in the future. We decided not to have an executive session this evening. Executive sessions are important. There are a lot of statutory reasons that we can go into closed session to discuss things like proposed or pending litigation or to prepare for contract negotiations. That's a critical tool in our tool belt for operating this government, but we want to make sure that we're really evaluating that, making sure that we go into executive session only when needed. So that's going to be a focus of my office moving forward as well. But I did want to give you that a heads up that that's going to happen, so we'll be prepared at the next meeting to try to prevent any further reprimands from the Open Meetings Commission and the good work that they do there. Again, just on upcoming matters, things that are probably going to consume a lot of bandwidth for me throughout the summer and moving forward. We talk about that comprehensive plan, the recodification, and the other thing we're really looking at as try to get a sense of how the city's been operating is the rally management structure. That's something that I've been visiting a lot with Kevin and Aaron about. I know that's an incredibly hot button issue in the community. It's something that we want to bring up during the comprehensive plan update. I know the citizens are going to have a lot to do on that too, but it is probably time to just reevaluate that as we understand how the city's been operating the rally in the past, how it's been in the distant past, how it's been operating it in the more recent past, see if that's the best way, keep whatever's working, jettison whatever's not working. So those are going to be conversations that we're having, but I'm still on the fact-finding mission of understanding all those things so that I can bring recommendations and advice to you. So it's been a busy 4 months, but a good 4 months. I think the city's really on track. I'm really, as I said, excited about the staff, the new staff that are coming on board, Aaron's leadership, Kevin's leadership, and I'm excited to continue working with all of you. Happy to take any questions that you might have for me now, and I will be back with future updates for you when there's information to share. Questions?
Can you just clarify for the public, because it's a question I received, and you touched on it a little bit. One of the questions I got was, if we have litigation, we're paying a city attorney and we're paying a third party law firm, and that's not accurate. We only pay you for hours worked. Can you just clarify that for the public?
Sure, happy to. Again, it's a new model. In the past, the city has employed one or more attorneys who work 40 or 80 hours a week, as the case may be, regardless of the amount of work that's necessary to do. What the city has, what the city council has, is a contract with Nelson Law. I'm an employee of Nelson Law, and that we're just billing the time that I am actually spending working on things. I bill you in 6-minute increments like I do almost any other clients, keep really immaculate and detailed billing records of what I do, and I send those to the finance officer every month. So that's how my bills are paid. I told you when you engaged with me that there were going to be times that I outsourced certain things to different firms, and there's a couple reasons for that. One, this isn't my only job, and it's really difficult if there's one particular week where there's only 6 hours of work needed, and then the next week something big happens and they need 40 hours, and then the next week is 40 hours, then I can't properly manage my schedule. And so that's certainly one aspect of it. But the other aspect is, if there is, in my opinion, another attorney or another firm who could represent the city's interests in a particular issue better than I could, then I want that attorney representing the city's interests and not me. And one of those things would be, and I'm not suggesting it. I mean, occasionally the city ends up in litigation, and a lot of times that is covered by the city's insurance company, but sometimes it's not. And litigation is incredibly time-consuming. It usually requires a large staff, usually some associate attorneys, some paralegals, things like managing discovery, filing and serving legal documents on tons of people. There are litigation firms that's really their specialty, and that they have paralegals and staff who can handle that kind of litigation. And so in the event that the city was to end up in some multi-party, big-blown lawsuit, it's not going to be me just handling it on my own and struggling with it. I'm going to go out to expert litigators, negotiate the best possible rate that I can, and that rate has always been similar to the rate that I've quoted you, so that we're getting the best services. If it's me who's the right person for that job, the right attorney for that job, I intend to do it. But what I'm doing when I coordinate with these other firms is being the liaison with them, between you. So it's really, I'm handling they're handling the legal aspect of it, but I'm managing the case with them and being the interface between the city's elected and appointed leadership. So there's certainly no double payments happening, but I want to make sure that whoever's the appropriate attorney for whatever particular job is the attorney who's representing the interests of the city of Sturgis, and not just do it all myself because I can. So that's kind of my ethos on that. Does that answer your question, Jesse? Yeah. Yeah.
I just want to clarify.
Yeah.
Excellent, Eric. Anyone else have any questions, comments?
All right. Thanks very much. I'll be back when I have something else to share with you.
Thank you. Thank you. Continuing on our agenda, item 15, mayor's report. What we have here is some personnel actions, primarily in the ambulance services tonight. I mean, we met Aiden Schilling, our new ambulance director, earlier. But we have some critical care paramedic, basic EMTs, those sorts of things. And of course, softball season's coming, and so we have a softball umpire on this list. Is there any questions on those pieces? Of action or of direction tonight is item 15.6, and that's the appointment to the Municipal Utility Board. We had a long-term former counselor and had been involved with our MUB, our Municipal Utility Board, for a lot of years. Mr. Ron Waterland retired recently, and we opened that application up to the public. It's exciting to see that, oftentimes we have a hard time getting applicants for these positions. We had 3 applicants in this position. I intend to move to offer this position to Dr. Tom Herman for the MUB, but I've spoken with the other 2 applicants, Casey Weedman and Rose Byers, about being involved with some additional areas of action committees that we have, and I'll kind of cover those a little bit. I intend to do a State of the City address at our next meeting on the 19th, and some of our former committees I think fit quite well, and I'll hold on for the rest of that, but it's good to see these people our citizens are wanting to be involved in their community, because while it takes a village to raise a child, it certainly takes a community to build a community, and having them involved is going to be really great for us. So, any questions on any of the item 15? Item 16 is our second consent agenda, and this is new business, so to speak. So what we have through here is item 16.1 through 16.5. Setting public hearings for street closures, volunteer listings, those sorts of things. Does anyone wish to remove any of those consent items and have them considered separately? Anybody from the public wish to have any of the 6 items on the consent agenda, 5 items on the consent agenda, my mistake, removed and considered separately? Is someone willing to make a motion for these 5 items on the consent agenda?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
We've got a first by Jim, a second by Jesse to approve the consent agenda in its entirety. Those in favor of that motion indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. Thank you. Item 17 is reports. 17.1 is consideration to approve Resolution 2025-16, resolution establishing a designated scatter garden for the disposal of human cremains at the Bear Butte Cemetery.
Evening, Mayor, members of the council. If you recall, last council meeting, we had the second reading of ordinance 2025-01, which gave us the ability to actually have a scatter garden in the Bear Butte Cemetery. We had to amend our existing ordinance because it did not allow for the scattering of human remains anywhere within the cemetery. This resolution actually gives the authorization of the Public Works Department along with the Sturgis Parks Board to actually designate that area within the Bear Butte Cemetery as a scatter garden. It also gives us the ability to establish general policies and regulations governing its use. Additionally, it sets forth the fees for the scatter garden, which are the permit fee of $75, the perpetual care fee of $25, making it a $100 permit fee. That will actually end up being reviewed annually by the entire council as we move forward under our new form of government in Title VII. We'll be setting those
fees annually. And then the other thing that this does is it, in accordance with our existing Title VI, 0.02.08, it makes the city finance office as the record holder of all of the permits, and the record associated with the use of the scatter garden would be the finance office. So once we approve this, that will allow us to put this into place. And our goal right now is still to have that up and running by Memorial Day. I think that this was the last piece that we need. The garden is done. The burial search program is online and ready to be used. The signs that help people to navigate to that, and the QR code that they can scan and it opens up on their phone. Those signs will be done and installed hopefully by the end of this week or early next week. So we're right on schedule to have this up and running by Memorial Day.
Outstanding, Rick, thank you.
Be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Anybody have any questions?
Rick, we've had this public for some time now. Have we gotten response from the public, people with requests or thoughts?
We haven't yet, and I mean, we've published about the online search capabilities. We've gone through some public actions through council to establish this. This resolution will need to be in effect that'll allow us and give the finance office the ability to sell those permits. And like I said, our goal was Memorial Day. We have not yet sold a permit, but I would anticipate that soon in the upcoming weeks we will.
In your experience, what would you anticipate we'd expect for people to request these things?
You know, in the past, I mean, we generally see cremains are probably 5 to 1 on versus a full burial anymore. And that's probably in the last couple of years. It used to be heavily weighted the other way, but I think the economy of scale and the ability, for people to honor their loved ones, this is certainly gaining traction. We don't have an area that we've allowed to scatter those, but we do allow you can bury cremains up at the cemetery. And like I said, we've certainly over the past few years seen a significant increase in that.
Thank you.
Rick, is there anything in place for somebody to just walk up other than registering and just spreading ashes?
No, and honestly, there's no regulations. So the regulations that are in place is that you have to have a permit and have a licensed funeral director in charge of any full burial. But when it comes to cremains, the state, there is no laws that govern cremains. So honestly, you can go scatter ashes wherever you want. The idea of having a scatter garden and offering that service is more about the memorialization. So you could go up there and scatter ashes, and if you didn't buy a permit, we would probably never know. But if you wanted to have a record, and that's what we're after, is offering a service where people and families can have a record so that your grandchildren and their children can go there and they can scan a loved one's name and know, hey, Aunt Betty or Martha, whoever is actually here. That's what we're offering more so than the place to do it. I mean, it kind of goes hand in hand is having that record and that genealogy of, hey, so-and-so is here. And if you don't have that, you would never know. But, we do see ashes scattered all around town, especially during the rally. We found them down on Main Street. I don't recommend that, but there certainly are no laws governing where you can and cannot scatter ashes, so.
Thank you.
Any further discussion, questions? Someone willing to motion resolution 2025-16?
I'll motion.
I'll second.
Got a first by Alex, a second by Mark to approve the resolution 2025 establishing a designated scatter garden for the disposal of human cremains at the Bear Butte Cemetery. All those in favor of that motion indicate by stating yes.
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 Those opposed, no. Motion carried unanimously. Thank you. 17.2 is consideration to approve city property by the Sturgis Soccer Association for the 2025 soccer tournament on May 16th through 18th, 2025.
Correct. This is a, the Sturgis Soccer Association has been hosting this tournament for several years now. Up till recently, we did have a request to close off a portion of the soccer fields, a portion of the parking lot that allows them to provide for some handicap parking and some premium parking, enables them to raise some funds. It also helps us to avoid people parking on the bike path and some different interactions there. Over the past several years, last year, if you remember, we did bring this before the council for consideration because of the use of city property, and the year before, we didn't do that, and we did have some people complain about things being closed and whatnot. So again, as Eric mentioned, we're trying to do things a little bit different and be palms up on things and be more transparent. So we typically will see you review these and make recommendation and take out action during a public setting so that everybody is aware. That's the area on the map there that's highlighted in red is the area that they're looking at the closure to do. It's not, like I said, a full closure because they are charging some gate admission. They do allow for some availability for handicap parking and others. One of the other big changes that we've made this year, and if you recall, several of you probably either noticed or had phone calls last year, as well as we saw it this last weekend with the Jeff Smith track meet. We talked about it this morning in department head, how bad the traffic was and people were parking, to the south of Lozelle Street and struggling to get across, and kids were running across. I did have a meeting with the DOT this year earlier, and we did ask them about turning that signal at Lozelle and Nelly, activating it. They did. They informed me to put in for a permit to occupy the right of way, and they did grant that. So for this event, we will have that signal activated and running, and hopefully that will help both with number one, giving a break in the traffic so people can cross. There's also at Nelly and Lozelle, there is a pedestrian crossing there that can be pushed and activated. So we're hoping to try and create a safer environment. Ideally, I think that it would be advantageous if we could have that signal running more than not. But we're making headway because it wasn't very, very many years ago when we asked the DOT, it was just a flat out no. So I think they're recognizing the problem that we have down there, the lack of parking, getting people across. Again, everybody wants to accomplish that safely. So by them allowing this permit is certainly a step forward. We've been monitoring this with the use of some of our Placer data and both last in 2023 and last year in 2024, the numbers exceed 5,000 spectators down there. So to put that in perspective, when we're a town of 7,000 people, just that tournament alone is almost doubling the number of people in our community. So I think that it goes without saying that it's a huge economic impact. This tournament continues to grow, and really there's not a lot of heavy lifting from the city on this one. So it's a win-win all the way around. And I know Rochelle is in the audience, and she represents the Soccer Association. If you've got any questions for me or for her, I'm sure she'd be glad to come up and answer as well.
Thank you, Rick. Any questions from council right off here?
One other thing Rick mentioned this morning in department head is how he'll have the police chief and his guys taking record, and it sounds like city staff, on possibly getting more records and pictures of the event down there to hopefully show the state that we need to have that stoplight engaged all the time instead of just never. So I think that's good to see.
Thank you, Tony. Rochelle, do you have anything to add?
Oh, no, I mean, I can always add something to anything. Just the history of this behind it is started out of safety concerns. On the north side of our complex, there's only a low-level wood fence. One of the things not a lot of people understand with Sturgis or with soccer in general is the time doesn't stop on the clock during playtime. You'll see a lot of balls that will get shot towards the Bear Butte Creek, and a lot of kids on our entryway, because they're lacking in time, will just jet across that road or that parking lot road. So we asked to close it a few years ago due to safety concerns, and then grew into a fundraiser opportunity. The money we raise doesn't just stay within Sturgis Soccer Association. We donate, I think it's approximately $3,000 every fall season to a boys and girls high school program to help cover expenses for equipment and travel. We send kids to scholarship camps with that money for soccer camps, and also pay for children to play within a rec season that can't afford it. So we do a lot of good things with that fundraising money.
Thank you. Any further questions on this? Somebody willing to motion?
I'll move.
I'll second.
First by Mark, second by Tony to approve the use of city property by the Sturgis Soccer Association. All those in favor of the motion indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. All right, that carries.
Thank you.
We removed item 17.3 and 17.4, so continuing to 17.5. We have consideration to approve the publishing services agreement for the 2025 official magazine of the City of Sturgis Motorcycle Rally.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As just mentioned, the item I bring before you tonight for consideration is that publishing services agreement with the museum. This is an annual licensing of the publication rights for that official magazine of the Sturgis Motorcycle Rally. Several reasons we do this. Years magazine ourselves. It's quite a project. And needless to say, as you've seen, the magazine we put out is a very high quality. This license ensures that. It also increases advertising revenue and reduces, staff time. So it's a big help. This agreement is a renewal. It's the 8th consecutive year that the museum and the city have partnered to do this. The collaboration definitely provides both entities the opportunity to market the rally, as well as their respective organizations and their partnerships. Staff is requesting council's approval to proceed with the mayor's signing of this agreement.
And that agreement was included in its entirety on the agenda, so.
That's correct, Mayor.
Any questions or comments from council? I see a couple folks reviewing right now.
That's a long contract.
Somebody willing to motion this?
A motion to approve.
I'll second.
First by Alex, a second by Ruth to approve the contract as presented. Is there any further discussion? I'll call for the vote. Those in favor of this consideration indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. And that carried unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
That brings us to executive session, of which we do not have any need for executive session tonight. So as we are at the end of our meeting with no further business, I will call the meeting adjourned.
I motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll second.
Eric, I'd like to debate that right now because my research shows that the chair can call the meeting over. Okay. Those in favor of adjournment indicate by stating yes.
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 Those opposed?